have one automaking company. And what did I do? I said 2 months ago, if they do that, I will put a 100 or 200 or 2,000% tariff on these cars, and they will never enter America. And that was it. And I said that 4 or 5 times during 4 or 5 speeches. And I met the man that's building the plants 2 days ago when I was in Detroit at the Economic Club of Detroit, making a speech, talking about how we're going to bring our car industry back, which is easy to do. All you have to do is the proper incentives. And I mean, keeping Elon would have been easy to do, frankly, but nobody ever went to
I want to push back on this. I'm curious to know what you say with this. So we thought about you. Everybody said, Pat, let's make sure we get one autograph hat of Future Looks Bright with the president's signature on it and allow people to compete for it. So here's what we're doing. Anybody that places an order of Future Looks Bright, $100, the first 100 of you, one of you will be the lucky winner of this signed hat by Donald J. Trump. So go to vtmerch.com, minimum order $100. One of you will send this hat to you. So going back to this. So when I think about, by the way, Tim Cook, Steve Jobs dies, Apple's worth $100 billion, today's worth $3 trillion, he 30x. So kind of credibility on what he did. He's a very good operator. I just don't think
Steve Jobs would have been as good as...
It's an interesting point you're making. It's a good point to debate. But I want to go to the China, Mexico. So for the first time in a long time, actual labor is cheaper in Mexico than it is in China. Mexico is now $390 an hour all in. China's $450, right? And when I think about this phone that Tim Cook, Steve Jobs, they built, this phone, if I buy it made in China, costs $1,100, okay? If I buy it, they try to do a quarter in India, backfired. They don't have the infrastructure yet, so he kind of wanted to find out what to do next. If I buy this in U.S. and it's made in U.S., it's $2,400, right? So there's a part of it with Nixon where I think Nixon got it right. And years ago, you and Nixon had a relationship. He even said, whenever you run, you're going to be a president. He said this many, many years ago.
He did say it.
Nixon
His wife
was
said
for...
His wife said it.
When Pat, you're saying...
She said, I watched somebody on the Phil Donahue show. She said, I watched a man on television, a young man on television. I have the letter. It's the most beautiful letter. He said, my wife just told me you'll be president, because I knew him a little bit. And I said, that's interesting. I'll have to think about that. But it was very nice, actually. But no, she said it. But go ahead, please.
So that's when you think about the first time we sold a Toyota in the States was 58. In 72, under Nixon, Toyota sold 1 million cars here. And that kind of forced American to be like, hey, we got to find a way to lower the price point. So we need a little bit of competition when it comes down to the tariff side, right? We do too much, price may go up. Because if we do make this in America and cash flow income is not going up, middle Americans may be like, I can't afford to do this. Yes, we'd love to have it made in America, but a regular person making $55,000, you can afford this. So how do you balance and manage tariffs so the average person is not affected by it? Please.
But before I do that, so let me just say, already tariffs, because to me, I think it's the most beautiful word in the dictionary. More beautiful than love, more beautiful than any word I know, tariff. It will make our country extremely wealthy again, because right now we're poor, we're broke. It'll make our country wealthy again. And it's the most powerful word there is. Okay, so just by the mere mention of the fact that I am going to put 100 to 200% tariffs on every car coming out of that factory that you just put, that car plant that's being built, actually started and stopped. The fact that I mentioned it, I said to the man the other day, because I told him, this started, I want to see a great car plant. He's the best in the world at building them, the biggest. And he said, I'll have to take you to Mexico. I said, you got to be kidding. I want to see in the United States. He said, we don't build them in the United States. We build them in Mexico and China and all over, but not. That's because we're stupid, okay? And yet we sell them. All that product would be sold in the United States. So I said, are you building it now? Yes, we're just starting. This was a year ago, let's say. And it's the biggest in the world. I think he said 2 of them, actually, but the biggest in the world. Anyway, I hadn't seen him. He's a great guy. All he does is plants. If you said build an apartment, he wouldn't know how to build it. I mean, all he does tremendous new big plants. I saw him the other day when I made a speech at the Detroit really economic summit. It was great, on cars. And I see him in the audience, and I see him afterwards, and I say, could I ask you, how is the big plants coming? oh, they stopped construction. I said, really? They did? Why? Tell me why. Because they think you're going to be elected, and if you get elected, you're going to put 100% tariff or 200. You even said 200. They said if Trump gets elected, we're not going to spend billions of dollars building plants in Mexico. I saved Detroit, what's left of it. Don't forget, Detroit can make a great renaissance with me. With her, she doesn't even know what you and I are talking about stuff right now. She would have no idea what we're talking about. You get it really good. You get it better than almost anybody. Even when I spoke at Bloomberg the other day, he wasn't a tariff guy. I said, well, you got to be a tariff guy because if tariffs don't work,
you need to use
our
it.
country's broke.
100% you need to use it.
But just think of it. The fact that I said I'm going to put tariffs on all of those cars that are coming out of that plant, that's a big plant. That's maybe one of the biggest in the world, right? Now, those cars were going to come all into the United States. If they come into the United States, that means there's not going to be any room. That makes more than Detroit makes, okay, than everybody. So that would mean that our car industry is wiped out. I hope that the union workers, the auto workers, understand that I saved their jobs. Because in a year and a half, when that thing opened, you wouldn't have one car being made in the Midwest or anyplace else in this country. So because of Donald Trump, and he said that, he said, because of you, construction is totally stopped. They're absolutely, they gave up in the job. Now, if I didn't get elected, they'll be building that sucker.
They're going to build it. They will.
You watch.
The only thing for
Hopefully
me is
that won't happen.
The only thing for me is that I would be curious to know how the administration is going to take it. You have to impose tariffs on a country that's bullying. For example, I love what you did with Iran when you put the sanctions. I'm in Monaco, June 26th of 2019. It's my 10-year anniversary. We're there with my wife. We're laying by Carlton Hotel. I think it's in Cannes, and having the award-winning lobster roll, whatever they claim there. And I meet this guy, Middle Eastern guy. He comes in. He says, "Hey, Patrick, how are you?" We start talking. I said, "What do you do?" He says, "Well, I'm a pretty powerful guy." I said, "Really?" "Yeah." He says, "Here, Google me." So I go on. I'm like, "Oh, interesting." I said, "I'm curious. So you manage what?" He says, 21 countries in the Middle East. I'm the one that says who gets to do business banking with Iran and none. I said, "What did Trump's sanctions on Iran do?" He says, "Let's go in the middle of the ocean and talk. And you have to set your phone aside." I'll never forget this. So we go in the middle of the ocean, standing out there having a conversation. Wives are talking. We're over there. He says, everybody, if you can pull up, that's the one. Is that what it is? Here's the economic growth in Iran. If you look at that, 15, 16 nuclear deal implemented, sanctions lifted. Then it's 18, 19. They're being decimated. I mean, these guys are getting destroyed.
They wanted to make a deal?
They wanted to make a deal.